The back door handle was already turning when I reached the kitchen. I froze beside the refrigerator, still holding the glass of water I had come downstairs for. It was 2:17 in the morning, and someone on the other side of the door was pressing the handle down slowly, releasing it, then trying again. The deadbolt held. My phone was upstairs, and the only thing within reach was a wooden knife block on the counter. I pulled out the largest knife and moved toward the door without turning on the kitchen light. A woman's face appeared through the narrow window beside the frame. It was Erin. My ex-girlfriend stared directly into the dark kitchen, as if she already knew where I was standing. Then she knocked 3 times. "Daniel," she whispered, "open the door." We had been broken up for almost 4 months. I had blocked her number after she began showing up at my job, calling from unfamiliar phones, and leaving handwritten apologies under my windshield wipers. I stayed silent. Erin leaned closer to the glass. "I know you're awake," she said. "I just saw you move." I backed away from the door and went upstairs to get my phone. When I looked through the bedroom window, Erin was standing beneath the security light in my backyard. She wasn't wearing a coat even though it was cold. She had on dark jeans, an oversized sweatshirt, and the white sneakers she used to keep beside my front door. I called the police and told the dispatcher that an ex-girlfriend who had been warned to stay away was trying to enter my house. While I waited, Erin walked around the side of the property and disappeared from view. The officers arrived 19 minutes later. By then, she was gone. They checked the alley, the narrow space between my house and the neighboring building, and the parked cars along the street. They found nothing damaged and told me that standing in a backyard and knocking on a door wasn't enough for an arrest unless she had refused a direct order to leave. One officer wrote down her name and advised me to save any messages she sent. Before leaving, he pointed toward the side gate. "Was that open when you went to bed?" The latch was hanging loose. I was certain I had locked it. The next night, Erin didn't knock. At 11:40, my doorbell camera sent me a motion alert. The video showed someone wearing a hood walking onto my porch and placing a grocery bag beside the front door. The person never looked at the camera. Inside the bag were 3 things: my favorite coffee, a pack of batteries, and a framed photograph of Erin and me that I had thrown away after the breakup. The glass over the photograph had been removed. Across my face, she had written one word in black marker: liar. I contacted the police again and sent them the footage. Because the person's face wasn't visible, they said they couldn't confirm it was Erin. I brought the bag inside because I didn't want it sitting on the porch where my neighbors could see it. That was a mistake. At the bottom, beneath the coffee, I found a small folded receipt from a gas station 3 blocks from my house. The purchase had been made 20 minutes earlier. On the back, Erin had written, "You still leave the bedroom window unlocked." I ran upstairs. The window was closed, but the lock was turned sideways, not fully open and not fully secured. I installed 2 more cameras the following afternoon. One covered the alley, the other faced the backyard and side gate. I also replaced the bedroom window lock and added wooden rods to every accessible frame. A locksmith changed the front and back deadbolts because Erin had once owned a key. That night, I watched the camera feeds from my couch until nearly 1 in the morning. Nothing happened. At 1:26, the backyard feed froze. The image stayed on the same empty frame while the timer continued moving. I refreshed the app, but the camera showed as disconnected. The alley camera went offline seconds later. Then I heard a soft scrape above me. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor, directly over the living room. The sound moved from one side of the ceiling to the other, followed by a single, heavy step. I grabbed my phone and ran outside through the front door and called 911. The police entered the house while I waited across the street. They searched every room, checked the closets, and opened the attic access panel in the upstairs hallway. No one was inside, but the attic ladder was down. I had not touched it in over a year. One officer climbed up and shined his flashlight around. Near the opening, he found a fresh small sneaker print pressed into the insulation. The attic ran above my bedroom, bathroom, and part of the neighboring townhouse. The buildings looked separate from the street, but they shared an older section of roof built decades earlier. The officer explained that someone might have entered through a loose exterior vent or crossed from the vacant property next door. That townhouse had been empty for 6 months while the owner repaired water damage. Erin knew that because we had discussed buying it when we were still together. The police searched the vacant unit with the owner's permission. They found a second-floor window unlocked and dust disturbed beneath the attic hatch. There was no proof Erin had been there. The owner installed a padlock on the attic access, and I filed for a protective order the next morning. When I returned home from the courthouse, an envelope was wedged into my mailbox. It contained a printed screenshot of my protective order application. The document had been filed less than 2 hours earlier. Someone had circled my request that Erin remain at least 500 feet from my residence. Underneath, she had written, "You always needed space." I looked up and down the street, but no one was watching from the sidewalks. Then I noticed the upstairs curtain moving inside the vacant townhouse. I called the police from inside my car. Officers searched the neighboring house again. The upstairs rooms were empty, but they found a blanket, bottled water, and food wrappers in a bedroom facing my property. The blanket was still warm. Erin had apparently been staying there without the owner's knowledge. On the floor beside the window was a spiral notebook filled with dates and times. The notebook listed when I left for work, when I returned, when I turned off the downstairs lights, when I showered, and when my friends visited. One page listed the nights I had slept at my brother's house after the first incident. Another contained a rough drawing of my home, including the location of each camera and the blind spot beneath the kitchen window. Police collected the notebook and issued a warrant for Erin after finding her fingerprints inside the property. I stayed with my brother while they searched for her. For 3 nights, nothing happened. On the 4th morning, the doorbell camera showed Erin standing on my porch at 3:08 a.m. She looked directly into the lens. "I know you're not home." I returned with my brother and 2 officers. The front door was still locked, and there were no obvious signs of forced entry. I had changed the alarm code after the breakup. Only my brother and I knew it. Erin had helped set up the system when we moved in. Her old tablet had apparently remained authorized. She could view my cameras, disable sensors, and see every time the system was armed. I removed every device, created a new account, and replaced the control panel. While the technician worked, my brother found something taped beneath the kitchen table. It was a photograph taken through my living room window. In the photograph, I was asleep on the couch. On the back, Erin had written the date. It was taken the previous night while I was staying at my brother's house. The photograph wasn't of me. The person on the couch had the same build and haircut, but when police enhanced the image, they could see it was someone else wearing one of my hooded sweatshirts. I checked my bedroom closet. 3 shirts, a pair of jeans, and the sweatshirt were missing. That meant Erin had not simply entered for 6 minutes. She had brought someone into my home, dressed him in my clothes, and photographed him through the window to make me believe she had been watching me sleep. Police believed she was trying to frighten me into contacting her. They identified the man 2 days later. His name was Lucas, a co-worker of Erin's, who claimed she told him the house belonged to her and that she needed help retrieving personal property. He admitted entering, but insisted Erin had already been inside when he arrived. According to Lucas, she unlocked the front door without a key. He said she disappeared into the basement for several minutes and returned carrying a small metal box. I didn't own a metal box. The basement had 1 exterior window, 3 storage shelves, and an old utility closet beneath the stairs. When police opened that closet, they found the back panel had been removed. Behind it was a narrow crawl space extending beneath the kitchen. The crawl space was too low to stand in, but someone had been using it. There were flattened cardboard boxes, empty water bottles, a flashlight, and a portable phone charger. A section beneath the living room had been cleared directly below a floor vent. From that position, Erin could hear conversations inside the house. She could also reach an old electrical junction where several camera and alarm wires passed through the floor. The metal box Lucas described was found near the crawl space entrance. It held spare keys, old mail, copies of my work schedule, and a small digital voice recorder. The recorder contained hours of audio from inside my home. Most of it was ordinary: television noise, phone calls, footsteps, and my brother and me discussing what Erin had done. The final file was different. It began at 2:03 the previous morning while I was asleep at my brother's house. For almost 7 minutes there was only silence. Then Erin's voice came through clearly. "He still thinks I keep leaving," a man asked. "What do you mean?" Erin answered, "I never leave until morning." Police searched the crawl space again. At the far end, they found a second opening leading into the basement of the vacant townhouse. Erin was arrested at a motel near the highway the following afternoon. Police found dark clothing, gloves, tools, and several memory cards in her room. They also recovered my missing clothes and copies of photographs taken inside my house. She was charged with burglary, stalking, unlawful surveillance, property damage, and violating the temporary protective order. For the first time in weeks, I believed it was over. Then the detective showed me the contents of one memory card. Most of the files were photographs of my house, my car, and the places I visited. Several had been taken before the breakup. One showed Erin standing in my kitchen late at night while I slept upstairs. Another showed the inside of my bedroom closet. The date on that photograph was from 2 years earlier. We were still together then. The final image showed a man sitting at my kitchen table. His face was turned away, but he wore the same jacket as the man heard on the recorder. Police asked Erin to identify him. She refused. Before being transferred to the county jail, she was allowed one monitored phone call. She called me. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. "You found the way I was getting in," she said. "You didn't find his." The police returned to my house with a building inspector and searched every access point again. They opened walls, examined vents, checked the roof, and crawled beneath the entire first floor. Near the rear foundation, the inspector found disturbed soil beneath a decorative panel. Behind it was a narrow maintenance opening that had been painted over years earlier. The opening led beneath the back porch. Inside, police found 2 sets of shoe prints. One matched Erin's shoe size. The other was much larger. The larger prints continued toward the crawl space but stopped beneath the kitchen. A cigarette butt was found near them, along with a plastic cup from a restaurant across town. DNA from the cigarette did not match Erin or Lucas. The unidentified man from the photograph had likely entered my property more than once. Police checked Erin's phone records and interviewed friends, co-workers, and former partners. No one admitted knowing who he was. Erin eventually accepted a plea agreement that included prison time and a long-term protective order. She still refused to discuss the second person. The detective believed she was protecting someone. I believed she was afraid of him. I sold the house 3 months later. I couldn't sleep there anymore. Every settling floorboard sounded like movement beneath me. Every disconnected camera notification made me think someone had cut another wire. The new owners were told about the crawl space and the break-ins. Before moving in, they sealed both underground access points with concrete and installed motion sensors around the foundation. I moved into a newer building across the city with controlled entry, interior hallways, and no basement access connected to neighboring properties. For a while, the fear faded. Erin remained in custody. Her attorney instructed her not to contact me, and there were no more photographs, letters, or late-night visits. Then, 6 months after her arrest, I received a motion alert from the camera inside my new apartment. I was at work. The video showed my empty living room. Nothing moved for 12 seconds. Then a man's hand reached into the frame from behind the camera and turned it toward the wall. The alarm never activated. The front door never opened. Police searched the apartment and found no one inside. On the kitchen counter was a white sneaker. It wasn't Erin's size. The building reviewed every hallway, elevator, stairwell, and lobby recording from that day. No unidentified person entered my floor. The maintenance log showed no work scheduled inside my unit. Management confirmed that only 3 master keys existed, and all 3 were accounted for. The balcony door was locked from the inside. The windows did not open far enough for a person to climb through. The police treated the sneaker as evidence, but it had been wiped clean. There was no usable DNA, no fingerprints, and no store receipt that could trace where it came from. I moved again before my lease ended. This time, I didn't tell friends where I was going. I used a post office box, changed my phone number, deleted my social media accounts, and bought cameras that stored footage locally instead of online. I have not seen Erin since her arrest. I have never identified the man in the photograph. But every few months, usually sometime after midnight, one of my cameras records 3 quiet knocks, not against the door, against the wall behind the camera. The sound always comes from inside the room. I still don't know whether Erin was warning me about that man or using him to make sure the fear continued after she was gone. The police never found another entrance, and every place I have lived since has been inspected before I moved in. I no longer ignore small changes inside my home. A window unlocked when I remember securing it, a chair turned slightly toward the hallway, or a camera losing connection for only a few seconds. Those details can look harmless until you realize someone may be testing how much you notice. So tell me what you would have done the first night Erin appeared outside that back door. Would you have stayed in the house, confronted her, or left immediately? Share your own real experiences in the comments, especially if someone kept finding ways into your life after you told them it was over. Like the video, subscribe to This Horror Reel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another This Horror Reel story. Because sometimes the person outside your home isn't the real danger. Sometimes they're only the one you can see.